to do. So I was like, you don't stop, don't change, don't. And then one day I heard, like, what the was that?
Before my audition, I went to this kid's house, and I, out of, I guess, a desire to be accepted, I would succumb to peer pressure.
You don't understand how big you're about to be in the Jew world right now. You don't understand how big you're about to be in the Jew world right now.
First of all, I live in an all-Jewish area, so
where is that?
Forest Hill.
Okay.
I just love my neighborhood. It makes me feel so wonderful inside.
Never loved us. Remember?
And yeah, I think I just felt a lot of pressure to be like, oh, like, you know, I'm gonna kill someone with Jeezy and Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. And I was just enamored by like the whole space, you know?
My bank account is Magnolia Millie rocking. Ayy, widows in my comments talking about some Millie Bobby. Look, bring them jokes up to the game, we get to really flopping. Let's send a finger to your mama and some FedEx boxes. Oh.
It was just pretty crazy to me that any of these people would even make music with me.
Incredible. It's a great sandwich. Well, give me a chance here. Well, maybe you can help me then. Aubrey, let's do it, baby. Okay. Do you want to give me a hand? Put the food out, and I'll bring the. Then you go and get the plate.
I'm so sick of people saying that I'm like lonely and emotional and like associating me with this like longing for a woman or
sad guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I was like, you know, this kid from Toronto who just wanted it all so bad, and then, you know, whenever I'm describing it to someone, I'm like, fast forward to now, and like I'm, you know, 3 years later, and I'm like sort of a king in this world that I exist in. King in this world.
To the rest of you, the non-believers, the underachievers, the tweet and deleters, you guys make me sick to my stomachs, fam. Honestly, if you guys want to look in my eyes, you guys want to do something? That's what I thought. More of a constant reminder, which I love him so much for saying this to me, is, you know, he's always just like, man, please be yourself. Please don't ever try and be me or anybody else. Don't ever go get tattoos. You don't have to dress any different. And he really liked the kid that he met. And he was like, don't stop smiling either. Don't try and get mean or aggressive. He's like, just be you, man. Just be you and rap about life and women and family and just
Play gangsters, fake ass accents, posted in another nigga hood like a bad pig.
Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern where an individual doubts their accomplishments and has a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. Despite external evidence of their competence, those experiencing imposter syndrome remain convinced that they are undeserving of their success and attribute it to luck, timing, or deceiving others into thinking they are more intelligent, capable than they perceive themselves to be. The phenomenon can affect anyone, regardless of their social status, work background, skill level, or degree of expertise. Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Twilight. Now at first I didn't even really want to even touch the whole Drake thing because there have been more than enough content creators who have created wonderful think pieces on Drake, his creepy behavior or alleged creepy behavior, and many other aspects of his career leading up to the beef with Kendrick Lamar. But because this is a mental wellness and behavioral psychology type of channel, his behavior definitely needs to be studied. And just like I said in the beginning, when it comes to imposter syndrome, I think we can concur that we have all went through this at one particular point in our lives. At one particular point in our lives, we felt like we didn't fit in, like we were isolated. But I think that when that wound has never been healed, you come up with some of the results that Drake has come up with his career and his colleagues, quote unquote. So to give you a heads up, we're going to be talking about isolation, the kid that got picked last syndrome, self-loathing and victimhood, and then eventually anger and jealousy, which leads to cringe behavior that alienates you in the first place. So the cycle.
No.
So if you want to skip ahead in chapters, that information will be in the description bar. One of the very first things I want to point out is how Wayne was very clear to Drake at the beginning of his career. Be exactly who you are. That's some real ish right there. Because only a real dude is going to tell you to continue to be yourself. Even Lil Wayne must have sensed that insecurity within him.
Because it's just, Lil Wayne's just too good.
You gotta give Wayne the love.
Just too good.
And Drake himself recalls the conversation, but he did not understand the assignment. And of course, as an adult, Drake has his own right to make his own decisions. However, I think the only mistake that was made in that conversation was that Wayne thought that Drake was being himself. And in fact, the person that Drake was when Wayne met him still was a version of himself that he thought was acceptable in his current situation. As I see it, he had probably been being a chameleon since he was a little kid. So how can you commit to being yourself when you actually have no idea who that is?
Yo, dog, you know what it is, dog. Big up yourself, bruv. You done know Drizzy Drake, dog.
It's crazy, right?
That is not a bad Westwood impersonation.
South London, dog. You know what it is. Yo, dog, you know what it is. You're the man, dog. You're the man, you're legend, dog.
Right?
Exactly.
What more can I say? I'm tired of being right. If my Jamaican accent is so fugazi, then here's 3 more things I can tell you guys. My patois is the best of all time. Zagazao, Neptune, make number 1 tune, yeah. And that's just the warm-up. So when you really hear me speaking patois, just know that I really do this. So respect me when you hear me. You feel me? All right, here we go. Bomba clat. You feel me?
She call me Mr. Bombastic. Tell me fantastic. She touched me in me back. She call me Mr. Romantic.
You like that, eh, song? You didn't think I knew about that.
Back to seconds. Cosplay, gangsters, fake ass accents. Posted in another nigga hood like a bad pig.
I never really got to have too many like girlfriends in high school. That just wasn't really my life at the time. My life was very focused on my career, and I had a difficult time in high school too. As a student, you know, I really wasn't the best student in school, so I ended up dropping out of high school actually to pursue music, and I hope, you know, one day soon that I can go back and graduate. And it's not something that I'm proud of, but it was definitely a decision I don't regret, because I think things are going great for me right now. And
Drake attended Forest Hill Collegiate Academy. This was going to be his second high school in his high school career, and he dropped out 1 credit shy of graduation. In prior reports, it states that he left high school because he was being bullied for his being biracial and his religion, which would make a lot of sense since he was mostly in a Caucasian neighborhood. But for him to drop out 1 credit shy, that speaks to the level of bullying and isolation he felt in high school. In my opinion, this can give credence to why he might be emotionally frozen In his glory days in high school, many people comment on how childish Drake is and how he has not grown as an artist. And this is some of what people are saying. But if you look at the fact that he left high school one credit shy, this speaks to how bad it had to be. And this is his second high school within his career. According to an article published in Psychology Today, among biracial adults who are white and black, 61% say they are perceived by strangers to be black. Only 19% say that they are seen as multiracial, and even smaller shares say they are seen as single race white. About 1 in 10, 9% of non-Hispanic white and black biracial adults say others would think they are Hispanic, and 3% say that they think that they are American Indian. To look into the experience of a biracial person, because this seems to be a point of contention for Drake in his life and experience. An article published by Pew Research goes into depth about the biracial identity crisis. Many mixed race people feel as if though they are not fully integrated into either side and are often forced to pick a side. By doing so, they seem to feel like they have somewhat betrayed a certain part of them.
Relationship, when we used to talk and chop it up, and chop it up is like, converse.
Thank you. That kind of thing.
Drake instantly in that moment identified that he was talking to a European woman, and he realized she might not understand the slang and the lingo. Another part of the article highlighted how mixed race people experiencing those identity crises felt as if though they had to dress and look the part to be accepted by the respective peer group. And in order to do that, they had to abandon one side while completely committing to the other. Clearly, we see how Drake's look has evolved over time so that he looks more like a light-skinned black man as opposed to a man of mixed race. He adopted the cornrows and the rapper and urban aesthetic, a far distance from the look and the aesthetic that Drake used to embody early on in his career. Even going so far as to gain massive amounts of tattoos, completely ignoring and not heeding to the warnings of Lil Wayne's advice. And those tattoos are a tad bit creepy. Now, I can understand getting tattoos of your parents and people you love, but getting tattoos of Sade and Lil Wayne, come on, man. Lil Wayne, I understand you might admire Lil Wayne and Sade, but it's still giving creep. It's still giving obsession. And then Aaliyah, never met the woman in your life as far as I can find. I looked all over and didn't find any evidence of him ever having met her. So why is she tattooed on your body? Scientists also have come to discover that people with severe imposter syndrome tend to kind of absorb or think they can absorb other people's attributes, right? And we remove, as well as his experience that was documented in high school, doesn't seem like he was very much so accepted by white people either.
First, how big you're about to be in the Jew world.
You don't understand how big. First of all, I live in an all-Jewish area, so
where's that?
Forest Hill.
Okay.
I went to a predominantly Jewish school growing up. I definitely had a bar mitzvah in an Italian restaurant, mind you.
My lord. Yeah, a nice Italian restaurant?
Very nice Italian restaurant. The song of the night was Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way.
You are younger than me.
Yeah.
I forget about that.
Yeah, man, I was in there, I was in synagogue, I had my Yom Gone.
You were school, hold on.
No, see, I cheated, I didn't really.
So you just, your parents are nice.
Yeah.
So they let you do the bar mitzvah without having to do the fucking Hebrew song. So your mom's Jewish.
My mother's Jewish. And we have great Jewish.
What I find interesting is how he intentionally in that conversation left out his father. And we'll be talking about his father a little bit later on in the video as well. But another important aspect is you see how he was trying to cap and blow himself up and exaggerate all of his connections and his insight to the Jewish community. So even then, he was displaying behavior tendencies of trying to fit in. To me, this just showcases he's a guy that never quite fit anywhere he's been. And he truly does not have a stable identity. But no one is accusing J. Cole of being a culture vulture or mulatto. Hell, not even Doja Cat. Well, with Doja Cat, we just let her do whatever she want to do, okay? Barack Obama was never accused of being a culture vulture either. All of them are mixed race, yet none of them face the amount of scrutiny that Drake does. And I believe that a great deal of that is because of his lack of understanding of the culture, which many notable YouTubers have went into, so I'm not going to go into that. My angle, though, is pointing the finger at his dad for not introducing him enough to the culture. That way he felt integrated and he had a deeper understanding other than surface level, anecdotal, as well as some form of almost black caricatures.
Bend that ass over. Let that coochie breathe.
The upbringing of Drake and him kind of living in Toronto without you at times. We hear it in his lyrics sometimes.
I had a conversation with Drake about that. I have always been with Drake. I talk to him, if not every day, every other day.
Wow.
And we really got into a deep conversation about that. I said, Drake, why are you saying all of this different stuff about me, man? Like, this is not cool. And he goes, Dad, it sells records.
Imagine being the last kid picked when people are choosing their sports teams. The feeling of being an outsider, the feeling of not experiencing camaraderie or being good enough. I'm pretty sure that can, to an extent, describe how Drake felt amongst his peers as a young boy. But to also be picked last by your own father, man, that's nasty work. Because Drake and his father have a totally different account of time spent in his childhood.
From front to back of just songs, pages and pages of lyrics and ideas. Something that I'll probably never use, but I mean, because they're old, I just like to keep them around for nostalgia purposes. And this is my dad, and him and my uncle worked with Al Green. That's basically why I do it. I mean, he taught me everything. So, thank you, Dad. I don't get to see you that often, but you know. So, thank you, Dad. I don't get to see you that often, but you know.
On the song Look What You Done, Drake raps, and my father living in Memphis now, he can't come this way over some minor charges and child support that wasn't paid. Damn, boo-hoo, sad story, black American dad story. Then in another part, he says, just another kid going through life, so worried that I won't be accepted. Notice this is the second time, and I'm sure there is more, where Drake has referenced this crippling fear of not being accepted by his peers, which are all warranted, of course, but that is something that looms as a fear inside of him that even as a successful artist, he still was pining away about. So you'll notice in the Worst Behavior video that it's being shot in Memphis, and he's kind of trying to portray the image that he has some sort of association with Memphis, Tennessee. He put his dad in it, and it's kind of like he using that for clout a little bit. I also noticed that he has on a Memphis jersey in the Get It Sexy video. So again, he is siphoning from that experience for which he never had because his dad really wasn't around.
Oh, Drake definitely took to Instagram to post. He said, "Woke up today so hurt, man. My father will say anything to anyone that's willing to listen to him." That's you, Nick.
Called you anyway.
It's sad when family gets like this, but what can we really do? That's the people we are stuck with. Every bar I ever spit was the truth. To some people, was the truth. It's hard for some people to accept.
When you come from a single parent household, man, these are those tough conversations that once you're an adult, you have. And I think even regular parents, we don't believe that our parents are perfect. Especially you do when you're a kid, and then when you get older, you're like, yo, there's some things that we got to discuss. And that's one of those things I've discussed with my parents. And some conversations are easier than others, and sometimes I could even see Drake, even if Drake did have issues with his dad, he probably didn't want to talk about it right then and there. Like, Dad, you know, man, Dad done that. I'm just saying, we know art and music is where you really express yourself. So he probably felt the way he really did, but when his dad approached him about it, he's like, come on, Dad, we having a good time. We balling right now. We ain't got to talk about that right now.
Well,
so I'm finding out some interesting things about the psychological underpinnings of having the imposter syndrome. Obviously, it leads to self-doubt. It leads to feeling like you're never quite good enough. It leads to you not seeing your 5 diamond singles and 7 platinum albums and 323 songs made, and a world-renowned international artist will never be enough, because the deep-rooted pain from not being accepted and not feeling good enough will always remain, and that hole is unfillable with superficial things, although people do try. Another interesting thing that I wanted to point out is how a lot of anger and resentment can come up for a person when they finally do feel like they accept it. Now, that Drake has so many enemies in the industry. Atlanta was his place. It was his place of peace, his place of money, his place of punani. And now it's like he is outcasted from Atlanta and really working with the majority of the most popular Atlanta rappers. And he alienated himself, and he was further alienated, obviously, by Kendrick, really pretty much pulling back the cover on his imposter syndrome. So prior to all of those things happening, though, we have to take into account that this man felt locked out of an experience. Now, the person who locked him out of that experience was his father. And it could be very possible that he could have trumped up resentment, misplaced anger that he feels towards other black men who already in that space, who already understand and know the culture, like Kendrick Lamar, Metro Boomin, Future. You know, they are already approved of black men. What if I told you Drake collaborated with a lot of those artists out of fear of becoming irrelevant? When you have a superficial narrative and a persona put out to the public and your internal world ain't looking good, you have to do everything you can to keep up that public persona. Already invited Drake to the cookout. We done gave the man a big piece of chicken. Most people can't even get the big piece of chicken. That's usually for Pawpaw. But it wasn't enough. He was missing something from his life, from his childhood. And I really think that this is spiraled out of control. There are so many reports of him and his goons, Baka Not Nice, and other people in the OVO crew really literally taking advantage of artists coming up, beat up, artists scared for their life. Like, dude, you totally flipped the script and you're no longer that nice kid from Canada. You try to turn into a full-out gangster in your late 30s, mind you, talking about sending people's mama's fingers and stuff. And even at this point, when you're dealing with someone who has these acute level emotional and psychological challenges, it is hard for them to ever see themselves as anything other than the victim, because the one thing that they needed from life, from the origin of their childhood, they could never recoup. So they live in this constant fear, this constant defense. They're on the defense, they're on the offense, and they're just always waiting for the next shoe to drop. It is my hope that Drake takes the time to self-reflect, to get any kind of counseling that he may need, and to truly get a rooted and grounded persona. And to anyone else who's dealing with imposter syndrome, you are definitely not alone, and there are support groups out here that can help you. Peace.
Yeah. Look, if Drake shooters doing TikToks, nigga really shooting your gang. That's peace, brother. Y'all ain't getting shit shot, nigga. Can't listen to the snake talking falsetto, saving for a hip hop, nigga. You don't even be at home, dog. You